Travis Gundrum was born on November 29, 1984 in Lebanon, PA. He served in the Marines and earned the rank of an E4 corporal. Mr. Gundrum enlisted in the military after high school at the ripe age of 18. He served from July 7, 2003 to July 7, 2007. He served in the Lima Company, 3rd Battalion, 8th Marine, 2nd Marine Division. Currently, Mr. Gundrum lives with his wife in Lebanon, PA, and teaches at Cedar Crest Middle School. Mr. Gundrum's military service started at Camp Lejeune with his basic training. Mr. Gundrum was fond of his time in basic training. He did not find boot camp to be difficult because it was easy to figure out the mind games that they played.
Boot camp is probably the funnest experience of the whole thing. Just because once you realize they're playing games with you, it's just, okay, I can deal with this.
In his training, he learned how to use a gun, march properly, speak properly to superiors, and wear his uniform correctly. He also was put into combat situations. In boot camp, Marines learn a lot of history about the military. This was Mr. Gundrum's favorite part of basic. Mr. Gundrum received specialized infantry training after basic training and qualified with the M16 and M249. Mr. Gundrum was assigned to the 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines. After basic training, Travis Gundrum and his division were sent to Haiti. The Marines were in Haiti to provide humanitarian services and help the Haitians take back their government. Mr. Gundrum's division kept people out of the Capitol building, provided medical services for civilians, and cleaned the garbage off the streets. This was called Operation Secure Tomorrow. The conditions in Haiti were like a landfill. Every street corner turned was filled with garbage. This did lead to a struggle for the Marines because they could not shower often, but they were expected to walk around in filth all day. In Haiti, Mr. Gundrum did obtain some injuries from gunfire. His first gunshot wound was from civilians during a night patrol. The second gunshot wound that he faced was at a checkpoint. He and other Marines were mistaken for Haitian police, so when two people who had just robbed a shop down the street saw him, they shot at him. Mr. Gundrum's assignment in Haiti lasted 4 months. Mr. Gundrum's next assignment was in Fallujah. Travis Gundrum's division took over early for the 1st County 8th Marines in Fallujah. When Mr. Gundrum got to Fallujah, it was in ruins from the previous battle that ensued there. When in Fallujah, the Marines wanted to have some fun on the 4th of July. They decided they needed some fireworks, so they set off flares.
I'll tell you a funny story, I'll tell you a bad story. So one of the funniest stories when we were in Fallujah, and it was the 4th of July. And this is the first time any of us had been deployed on the 4th of July. And we said, well, we want some fireworks. What are we going to do? So our platoon sergeant got all of our guys. So some of the team leaders, they had on the bottom of their M16 was the M203 grenade launcher. And it can shoot smoke grenades, it can shoot explosive grenades, or it can shoot flares. And so they lined a bunch of the guys up, and we just shot, I don't know, 6 or 8 flares up in the air, and that was our fireworks. The battalion commander saw the lights going up and started raiding us, thinking we were actually being engaged by the enemy and we were trying to spot their positions and all of that. And our platoon sergeant was like, no, we thought we saw something, but it's okay. And the battalion commander got back to us and was like, so you fired 8 flares because you thought you saw something? Well, we just wanted to make sure. So that was kind of funny to do things like that. And that's probably one of the things that I think anybody who's been deployed, you find those moments to have fun. You have to, otherwise you lose your mind.
Mr. Gundrum and his division did not have much fighting in Fallujah because there had just been a lot of major battles there. He did witness many attacks from the insurgents, but these did not cause much damage to the American troops stationed there. Mr. Gundrum's time in Fallujah lasted almost a year, and then they were moved to Ramadi.
The goal for Ramadi was to run the insurgents out of the city, connect with the civilians, and let them know that their city will not be destroyed like Fallujah, and bring back basic functions to the city. A lot of fighting ensued in the city of Ramadi. This would be the worst fighting that Mr. Gundrum had seen so far in his military service. The first attack that Mr. Gundrum's platoon was involved in was on April 17, 2006. This attack did not create much damage to American troops. Most of the attacks from the insurgents were with bombs, and this was no different. Mr. Gundrum was one of the only people at both suicide bombings in Ramadi. Unfortunately, in one of these suicide bombings, Mr. Gundrum witnessed the death of one of his close friends, Tyler. After the attack, the insurgents used up all of their resources for a while, so the Marines were able to continue with the other tasks. The Marines kept the insurgents out of the city and protected families in the city. They protected the families by checking up on them often. If there were new people in the house, the Marines would make sure that that individual was a member of the family and not an insurgent. Eventually, the citizens in Ramadi took back their city. Mr. Gundrum was able to leave Ramadi at the end of June 2007. Mr. Gundrum is very proud of his days in service. He knows that he made a difference during his time in service. Mr. Gundrum still enjoys helping people and still feels a need to serve people in some way. He and some of his friends from his service started an organization called 380 IFS that reunites veterans after they have come home from Iraq. Mr. Gundrum loves these reunions and finds them to be very important in his life and lives of others. Mr. Gundrum's time in the Marines as an E4 corporal made a difference in so many lives of the people in Haiti and the Middle East. He and his battalion were able to aid in the securing of Fallujah and Ramadi by providing security and resources to the city. Throughout his service, Mr. Gundrum showed his selflessness and his patriotism to his country. The troops who served and are currently serving in the Middle East are truly amazing. Thank you to Mr. Gundrum and his fellow Marines for protecting our country.